Hi, this is Bradley Phillips with Phillips Law, and today we're bringing you another video. This time we're going to talk about the United States Supreme Court decision of Ramos v. Louisiana. Before I get into it, we are still working at home. It is still kind of peak pandemic COVID time, so if you hear some noise in the background, that's our neighbors having some construction done at 8 o'clock in the morning. But that aside, let's get into Ramos and what it means for Louisiana. So to provide a little bit of backstory first, Louisiana was one of only two states for about the last 100 years or so where we allowed non-unanimous verdicts to convict somebody and send them to jail, potentially for the rest of their life. What that means is, if you're not familiar with what a non-unanimous jury is, everywhere else in the country and in all federal criminal courts, to get a verdict, to get a conviction, you needed to have all 12 jurors vote guilty to send somebody to jail. Well, because of some really ugly history and some racist Jim Crow origin stories, I'm not going to go into those, but long story short, Louisiana, along with Oregon, was one of basically two places that only required 10 people to get a conviction. What that meant is, instead of having all 12 people, you could go to jail if two people disagreed, really if only one person disagreed, which is unlike the system literally anywhere else in the country, as I mentioned, aside from Oregon. So there's been a pretty concentrated effort ever since this happened decades ago by the criminal defense bar and by criminal defense attorneys in general to chip away and challenge this rule, saying, hey, this isn't right, this is unconstitutional. On April 20th of this year, 2020, what happened was the United States Supreme Court issued, finally, some solid affirmative judgment on this, once and for all, saying non-unanimous verdicts are unconstitutional. If you want to send somebody to jail, you need all 12 people on that jury to agree. Now, that's great, especially considering that Louisiana changed the law to require this. That went into effect in 2020, but it really did nothing for anybody that was arrested prior to January 1st of 2019. So that means there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people sitting in jail as we speak because they were convicted of a jury of less than all 12 people. So that's a lot of information on the Ramos decision itself and what it changes, but let me start now by telling you what we can do for you. So if you have a family member or a loved one that's sitting in jail and they're there because they were convicted by a non-unanimous jury, you need to call a lawyer right away. The reality is, from April 20th of 2020, there are now timelines and there are deadlines that are going to kick in probably either a year, maybe 2 years in some circumstances, from that April 20th date, that within that time period, we've got to get something filed for that person to get them back in court, or to get their petition, their pleadings, their appeals changed or amended so it includes information regarding the new U.S. Supreme Court case. So what we do is you come, you meet with us, we do an evaluation of the case, and if we believe that there's reasonable grounds to potentially reopen this file and try to get it back into court, what we'll do is we'll pull the court record, we'll review the jury minutes, we'll review the sentencing, we'll review everything we can to prove that your loved one was convicted by a non-unanimous verdict. So what does that mean? That means less than all 12 people on the jury. This is really complicated. There's a lot going on. We've taken some CLEs, continuing education classes on it, but we're still trying to sort out a lot of the information. We're hoping to have some more guidance from the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court that is, in the next year, but in the meantime, that's no reason to wait, especially if your case is older and not in direct appeal. If it is on direct appeal, there's a lot of things that can happen right away that you're entitled to, but again, don't wait. Get a lawyer now. Call us, we'll set up a consultation. Consultations are always free. We'll spend as much time as we need with you figuring out what we can about the case before letting you know if we think you've got a claim that we can pursue to help get your family member, friend, loved one, whatever it may be, another chance at the trial they should have been entitled to the first go around.